Before Syed starts his program, today's iftar has been sponsored by Amir Bhai and Sister Nosheen. Please recite Surah Fatiha for all the Maroomins of both their families. Salawat.
I think I'll be done in a bit less time than that. I think so, inshallah. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بائر الخلائق أجمعين بائث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على البشير النذير السراج المنير سيدنا ونبينا وشفيئنا إن شاء الله الخاتم لما سبق والفاتح لمن غلق المؤلن الحق بالحق أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل عليه وعلى أهل بيته مظاهر جمالك وجلالك الذين كلامهم نور وأمرهم رشد ووصيتهم التقوى وفعلهم الخير وعادتهم الإحسان. أما بعد، صدق الله تعالى حيث يقول وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. صلوات. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin in the name of the most merciful Master, the most magnificent. He, the Most High, is a Rabbul Alameen, the Nourisher, the Sustainer. I begin by giving thanks to Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's most choicest blessings be upon all the prophets, especially the final prophet, his holy family and his pious companions. Sorry, I don't know what day of Ramadan it is today. 7th, because I looked at the recording yesterday and I said 5. So 7th, so day 7 of 30 of Ramadan. Inshallah, maximizing Ramadan 2023. I hope everyone is in the best of health and the best of Iman, inshallah, and is benefiting from Ramadan, the prayers, the du'as, the Quran, and inshallah from what I'm saying here. Today we will speak about I think it's a favorite topic for a lot of people, Imam Ali alayhi salam and God centricity, Tawheed. It's narrated, it's attributed to Imam Ali alayhi salam. قال الأمير المؤمنين رئيس الموحدين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. He says, الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحة القائلون ولا يحصي نعماه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدرك بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود فطر الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بصخور ميدان أرضه. صلوات. It's attributed to the Ra'is al-Muwahideen, the Prince of Monotheists. Imam Ali Islam, he said in this khutbah, all praise is due to Allah, whose worth cannot be described by speakers, whose bounties cannot be counted by calculators, and whose claim to obedience cannot be satisfied by those who attempt to do so, whom the height of intellectual courage can never appreciate, and the divings of understandings cannot reach. He for whose description no limit has been laid down, no eulogy exists, no time is ordained, no duration is fixed. He brought forth creation through his omnipotence, dispersed winds through his compassion, and made firm the shaking earth with rocks. And from this khutbah we can see Imam Ali Islam had a very deep and personal relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and thus aside from the numerous Quranic ayat and the authenticated hadith of Manzila, and Ghadir and so on, attributed to about Imam Ali from the Prophet. But here in this khutbah, what Imam Ali says is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be described. His bounties are impossible to calculate. The minds are in awe of him, and our minds will never ever be able to fathom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no description, there's no limit for God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the limitless, timeless, eternal. He is the nourisher, the sustainer. But in another way, Imam is saying he is unknowable. However, in spite of all this, we still have to worship him. But how does this make sense? How do we worship a being that is unknown, utterly unknowable to our minds? But here, this is where we turn to our role models. He is unknowable, yet we still have to worship him. We turn to the Prophets and the Ahlul Bayt and the pious Sahaba of the Prophet. We see how they experienced God and what lessons we can take from them in our personal and intimate relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For instance, there's a famous incident of Amir al-Mu'mineen where he is asked whether he sees God or not. And he alayhi salam replies, "I do not worship a God I cannot see. But how do you see him?" He replies, "It is not the physical eye that sees Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather it is the heart." This is Imam Ali alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in his heart, and he with his 100% being is worshipping this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here's where God can be found in all of us. He cannot be bound by any philosophical, rational, mystical teachings. Our minds cannot fathom him. However, we can find him in our hearts. And one thing I will do today, there's a dua that you read every Thursday. However, I don't know if you've reflected on it, but today let's deeply try to reflect on Dua Kumail. Let's open it up and explore some of these lines of what the Imam is saying. And at the beginning of this dua, he says, "Ya Ilahi wa Sayyidi wa Rabbi." Ya Ilahi, O my Ilah, O my God, O my Sayyidi, O my Master, wa Rabbi, O my Nourisher. Aturaka mu'adhibi binarik ba'da tawheedik. Can you see yourself tormenting me with your fire after I have professed your tawheed, after I professed your unity? Wa ba'da man tawa alayhi qalbi min ma'rifatika. And after the knowledge of you my heart has embraced. وَلَهِجَ بِهِ لِسَانِي مِنْ ذِكْرِكَ. And the remembrance of you my tongue has constantly mentioned. وَاتَّقَدَهُ ضَمِيرِي مِنْ حُبِّكَ. And the love to you which my mind has clung onto. وَبَعْدَ صِدْقِ تَرَافِي وَدُعَائِي خَادِئًا لِرُبُوبِيَّتِكَ. And after the sincerity of my confession and my application humble before your worship. Hayhat, never. Anta akramu min an tu'adiya min man rabbaita. This is far from you, Ya Allah. Hayhat, never. You are more generous than this. You would never make your servant suffer whom you yourself have nurtured. So Imam Ali Islam is asking a rhetorical, hypothetical question. That, Ya Allah, can you see yourself tormenting me after I've done all this? I've professed your unity. My heart has embraced you. My tongue is constantly doing your dhikr. My mind is in awe of you and it has clung onto you. And I'm supplicating and I'm confessing to you and being humble in front of you, Ya Allah. Never. You are more generous than to punish a servant who does all these things. And he is directly calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's saying, my Lord, my nourisher. And this is a reciprocal relationship, meaning this is a two-way relationship. And a few nights ago we mentioned to the Quran how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has directly addressed us. He calls us, Ya ibadi, my servants. Have hope in me and call out to me. This is what we mentioned a few nights ago and also in the Jummah khutbahs as well. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, call out to me if you need any help. I'm always there. And here Imam Ali Islam is doing exactly that. He's calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, in the most beautiful way, he's saying that even if you throw me in hellfire, I will still call out your name. This is love. this is muwadda, this is ishq, this is all these beautiful words that you hear. This is true love between a master and his servant. That if such a scenario was even possible, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would put Imam Ali in hell, still even then, even in this moment, Imam Ali would call out to him. His heart and tongue are in synchronization. The inner, the soul, and the outer are both matching. There's no sort of fluctuation here. And both the heart and tongue acknowledge the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And both of them are calling out to Allah. That in this hypothetical scenario, even here, the mind of Imam Ali, which has been taken over by the love of Allah, all his prayers, even in this moment, are calling out to God. He's saying that after all this, after my heart, my tongue, my mind is professing your tawheed, your unity, constantly remembering you, constantly worshipping you, it does not befit your majesty to put me in hell. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most generous. He will not nurture someone, He will not look after you, He will not teach you and command you to worship Him and do salah and dua and all these things and still throw you in hellfire. This is far from a majestic God like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for Imam Ali, we see the God centricity, how God is focused in his life. He is a pure soul, that even if this was to occur, that even if he was to be thrown in hell, his concern isn't with pain or torture or fire or anything like that. And he's actually being distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what hell represents, distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like we said a few nights ago in the Dua Arafah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he says, the one who has found you, what has he lost? And the one who has lost you, what has he found? And that night we concluded with hope. The one who has found Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has found hope. And the one who has lost Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is hopeless. And without hope, there is no life, there is nothing. And this is actual hell, when you do not have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should always, like we said, I've said it like 10, 20 times now, always have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we looked at Surah Zumar, the ayah in Surah Zumar, I think it was 53, that we should keep going back onto and keep reflecting upon. So look at Imam Ali alayhi salam speaking to God and see yourself right now. What are your du'as like? What is your salah like? Is it meaningful? Is it deep? Are we actually connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or is our salah just a yoga type exercise that we're going up and down, up and down, up and down 5 times a day? And the biggest question of all is, every Thursday you put this dua on, you read it. Have you ever reflected on it? It might be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years that you listen to this dua. However, have you become numb to it? Are we just too used to it now? It's become a habit or a chore that, okay, Thursday equals dua kumel. It's out of habit that we're doing this. And this dua, like with the Quran, there are many lessons we can take from this. And each person will resonate with this dua depending on where they are in their life. They'll reflect on different verses of this dua with different parts of this dua in their own unique way and how they are feeling in that very moment. For example, one person in the Hawza, he said to me that I reflected just on zalamtu nafsi in this dua. I have wronged myself. He just repeated this for months on end. I think he goes for a year or so. He just kept saying this. This was the only thing that was in his head, that I have wronged myself, I have wronged myself. And from him, he was hooked on this because of whatever moment he was going through in his life, whatever he was feeling between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had to keep repeating this. And this is what he picked up from this dua. And there's something in this dua that we can all learn from, insha'Allah. And also, just before I wrap up, whilst we were learning Farsi, there's a poem we studied in regards to God, which I found very simple yet effective in conveying my message in regarding Tawheed, which states, Be madar guftam akhirin khuda kist, ke ham dar khane ma hast wa ham nist, to gufti meherban tar az khuda nist, dami az bandegane khud juda nist, chera hargiz nemi ayad be khabam, chera hargiz nemi guyad javabam, namaz subgahat ra shanidam, tora didam khudayat ra nadidam, به من آهسته مادر گفت فرزند خدا را در دل خود جوی یک چند. خدا در رنگ و بو گل نهان است، بهار و باغ و گل از او نشان است. خدا در پاکی و نیکی است فرزند، بود در روشنای ها خداوند. He says, I asked my mother, who is this God who is present in our house and at the same time he is not? You said that there is no one as merciful as God. He is not detached nor isolated from his slaves, not even for a moment. So why does he not reveal himself to me in my dream? So why does he not respond to me when I call out to him? I heard you praying, O mother, during the morning prayer. I saw you, however, I did not see your God. My mother told me patiently, O my son, look inside yourself for a moment and there you will find God. God is manifested, he is hidden in the smell and the color of the flowers. During the time of spring, the orchard and flowers are all his signs. God is in all things pure, and he is goodness, O my son. And wherever there is light and brightness, God is always there. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. All praise is due to the Lord of the worlds, the most beautiful, the most merciful, who made mercy incumbent upon himself. He is the creator from whom our praises can never ever be sufficient, from whom our thanks and gratitude can never ever be enough. He is that Lord whose blessings can never be enumerated. He is worthy of thanks at every instant and praise at every moment for every single blessing. Blessings that do not cease, they are never ending as he is ever present. He is the one who creates but is not created. He is the one who gives but is not given. The all-powerful, every head must bow and every heart must submit. He is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who we always pray to, who we always turn to with hope and mercy in him always. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to learn from the Quran and such du'as, to allow us to benefit from the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, to allow us to look after one another, to allow us to worship you, Ya Allah, to the best of our abilities, to forgive the sins of the entire ummah and all our marhumin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على شكرا. Thank you.
الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر الله